another weekly devotion with Pastor Andrew. That's me. So, already we're talking about, and I know I hinted at it already. Day of the word of the day. Lent is culminating, and we're on, no pun intended, the downhill, right? Or rather, the uphill of Lent as we go to the cross with Christ. I'm blanking now suddenly on the gospel for this upcoming Sunday, but I imagine it has something to do with lifting Jesus on the cross. Christ must be lifted up. Why do I say that? Because our Old Testament reading, which we'll talk about today, which I think is such an interesting, I think I'm using this word right, juxtaposition with Moses and Christ lifted up, or something being lifted up so that everyone can be healed. Coming down, or rather up, right, the uphill, as Lent is this valley, this imagery that I constantly use, to the cross. Easter is on the horizon, almost, but not yet. But we have to, of course, go through everything else, or rather, Christ has to go through everything else before that. So our devotion today comes from that exciting book of the Old Testament, the Book of Numbers. But this is a history book. You know, we think of these other books in the Old Testament, and a lot of them are, I haven't had my coffee today. I can't quite click. But, you know, you have Genesis, which is the beginning of the world, and the world starting out, and just kind of this creation idea here through Noah, through the people, through sin, you know, and then we get into Moses, which is where we're at. And Numbers is, of course, after the Exodus, right? Genesis, Exodus. What does Exodus mean? It's a mass people leaving, right? That's what an Exodus is. As all the Jews or Hebrews came out of Egypt to go to the Promised Land, and where they walked in kind of a big circle for like 40 years. But that's where we are. You know, they've left. Here we are in the book of Numbers, chapter 21. They've left Egypt. And a lot of them are thinking, what? Well, I kind of preferred being in slavery than in this unknown of, you know, walking to the Promised Land. What did I get into? What am I doing? You know, just kind of this conflict. And a lot of times people blame or get upset with these people. But, I mean, you know, you live through it day in and day out. You don't know when your next meal is coming from. All right, so I got a phone call. No, but you know, these people get blamed quite a bit, but there's that struggle. You know, it's like there's just that fear of the unknown. At least that's how I look at it. Now, of course, did they make good decisions? No, but as us being so far in the future, or having heard it so much, you know, it's easy for us to put blame on them. I don't know. I'm just kind of getting and sharing some of my thoughts here about that. You know, it's always kind of been a struggle where it's like, okay, cut these people a little slack, okay? You know, let's be forgiving. If we're going to be forgiving people, let's be forgiving, right? Anyway, kind of a little soapbox there, but here we are in Numbers. Numbers 21, 4 through 9. I love it. What is that? That's like 5 verses, but it's like 2 pages. I love it. Anyway. From Mount Or, they set out by the way to the Red Sea to go around the land of Edom, but the people became impatient on the way. Now, granted, I think this is like a few days or maybe even not even a week after they left, and already they're upset. It's like, all right, come on. Yeah. Come on. All right, anyway. They became impatient on the way. The people spoke against God and against Moses. Why have you brought us up out of Egypt to die here in the wilderness? For there is no food and no water, and we detest this miserable food. I always like that verse because there is no food, no water. We detest this miserable food. So there is food. And then the Lord sent poisonous serpents among the people, and they bit the people so that many Israelites died. The people came to Moses and said, "Oh, we have sinned by speaking against the Lord and against you. Please pray to the Lord to take away the serpents from us." So Moses prayed for the people, and the Lord said to Moses, "Make a poisonous serpent and set it on a pole, and everyone who is bitten shall look at it and live." So Moses made a serpent of bronze and put it upon a pole. And whenever a serpent bit someone, that person would look at the serpent of bronze and live. Here ends the reading. So, a couple things in there, and I don't know if the devotion gets into this. I doubt it does. One, there is no food, no water. We hate this miserable food. So there is food. It's only a few days. I know I talked about forgiveness, but it's like, hey, give it a chance, right? Whatever. Lots of imagery there, right? With all these people being bit, poisoned, some dying, but all those who have been bitten. Interesting. I'm reading here. So I wonder, the Old Testament, full of all this, I was going to say magic, not magic. All of this stretching of the tails. I wonder, all these people that have died, so were they kind of resurrected or were they done? Because it doesn't say that. May everyone that has been bitten, right? Everyone that is bitten shall look at it and live. Okay, so did they come back? Who knows? And Moses did this. Isn't it interesting? Because what are they doing? They're looking up to a bronze serpent. Is this idolatry? No, because they're not worshiping it. But, it kind of brings that in. There's foreshadowing with that bronze. But then also as us as Christians, as I said, there's kind of that connection, right? Then interesting, he put it up there, and whenever someone was bitten by a serpent, they would just look at it and live. So was this now an ongoing thing, right? All these little questions. Our devotion writers writes this. God's story and God's people have always been on the move, going somewhere. Along their journey, the Israelites found that things were not as they imagined they would be. What did they imagine they would be walking into the desert? And their patience was tested. They were tired, crabby, angry, and doubtful. They cried out, complained, and blamed. God responded as always. God responded because the Israelites were God's beloved. In 2024, we are on the move as well, navigating our next steps, seeking to find ourselves in God's narrative, and hoping to make sense of our own stories that are at the heart of our daily journey. Just like those who have gone before us, our exhaustion, our hunger, crabbiness, anger, and doubt cause us to cry out. To cry out, complain, and blame. I don't know why I can't say those two words back to back. Our cries evoke a response from God because we too are God's beloved. The Lenten season and this story invite us to return to God, who is gracious and merciful, slow to anger, and abounding in steadfast love. I think that's an interesting devotion because where we really focus, and a lot of my focus has been in Lent, for those that we might call already faithful. This is a journey to dive deeper into that. The call of Lent is also that chance for one who is perhaps, and I extremely dislike this term, fallen away. Those that perhaps have turned away from God to maybe look back, right? To maybe look back and say, was I too hasty? Or, how did that help me? How did that hinder me? It's kind of the same thing, but it would be for those that wouldn't be called faithful, right? Oh, I go to church every week, or I go to church once a month. I don't even want to base it on attendance or anything like that. I think it's more of the engaging our faith and then engaging and keeping our faith alive, which of course just seems, oh well, yeah, of course, that's what we should always be doing. But we really don't do that. We really don't do that. We don't let our faith into everything. Should we? Should we not? Kind of some of these fundamental questions. But it's that chance. Lent is that chance to maybe look back and be like, what was that about? And what did that really mean to me? Does it mean anything different? Sometimes we'll say no. But we really need to push ourselves to say, let me examine that. Regardless of our faith background. Regardless. I hope that made sense. So let's close in a little bit of prayer. God of mercy and love, when we are impatient and angry because things are not going how we imagined, remind us that there is another way, another space to lean into. Help us to breathe and give us strength and patience to recognize your constant, gracious presence. Amen. What do you think a contextual learning associate is? Maybe it's self-explanatory, and I'm just trying to make it out to be someone else. But that would be interesting. Anyway, so good. So happy Lent. I hope this Lent, as I've been trying to do, brings a bit of joy as we look into our faith and re-examine that and perhaps open ourselves to new things happening or at the very least trying to stay open at all. Oh my gosh, connections to the devotion. Until next week, God bless.